Melvin, can you sit?
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotra Shri Srimad Charanadavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Could somebody grab the book for me? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 3, Text number 1. We'll read the introduction when the book comes. I guess we'll read the... Okay. Yeah, new chapter. Okay, Hiraṇyakashipu's plan to become immortal. This chapter describes how Hiraṇyakashipu performed a severe type of austerity for material benefit, thus causing great distress throughout the universe. Even Lord Brahmā, the chief personality within this universe, became somewhat disturbed and personally went to see why Hiraṇyakashipu was engaged in such a severe austerity. Hiraṇyakashipu wanted to become immortal. He wanted not to be conquered by anyone, not to be attacked by old age and disease, and not to be harassed by any opponent. Thus, he wanted to become the absolute ruler of the entire universe. With this desire, he entered the valley of Mandara mountain and began practicing a severe type of austerity and meditation. Seeing Hiraṇyakaśipu engaged in this austerity, the demigods returned to their respective homes. But while Hiraṇyakaśipu was thus engaged, a kind of fire began blazing from his head, disturbing the entire universe and its inhabitants, including the birds, beasts, and demigods. When all the higher and lower planets became too hot to live on, the demigods, being disturbed, left their abodes in the higher planets and went to see Lord Brahmā, praying to him that he curtail this unnecessary heat. The demigods disclosed to Lord Brahmā Hiraṇyakashipu's ambition to become immortal, overcoming his short duration of life, and to be the master of all planetary systems, even Dhruvaloka. Upon hearing about the purpose of Hiraṇyakashipu's austere meditation, Lord Brahmā, accompanied by the great sage Bhrigu and great personalities like Daksha, went to see Hiraṇyakashipu. He then sprinkled water from his kamandalu, a type of water pot, upon Hiraṇyakashipu's head. Hiraṇyakashipu, the king of the Daityas, bowed before Lord Brahmā, the creator of this universe, offering respectful obeisances again and again and offering prayers. When Lord Brahmā agreed to give him benedictions, he prayed not to be killed by any living entity, not to be killed in any place, covered or uncovered, not to die in the daytime or at night, not to be killed by any weapon, on land or in the air, and not to be killed by any human being, animal, demigod, or any other entity, living or non-living. He further prayed for supremacy over the entire universe and requested the 8 yogic perfections such as Anima and Laghima. Okay, text number 1. Shri Narada Vacha Hiraṇyakashipu Rajan Ajayam Ajaramaram Atmanam Apratidvandvam Ekarajam Vyadhitsata. Shri Narada Vacha Hiraṇyakashipu Rajan Ajayam Ajaramaram Atmanam Apratidvandvam Ekarajam Vyadhitsata. Hiraṇyakashipu Rajan Ajayam Ajaramaram Atmanam Apratidvandvam Ekarajam Vyadhitsata. Hiraṇyakashipu Rajan Ajayam Ajaramaram Atmanam Apratidvandvam Ekarajam Vyadhitsata.
Hiraṇyakashipu Rajan Ajayam Ajaramaram Atmanam Apratidvandvam Ekarajam Vyadhitsata.
Shri Narada Vacha. Narada Muni said, Hiraṇyakaśipu, the demoniac king Hiraṇyakaśipu. Rajan, O King Yudhishthir. Ajayam, unconquerable by any enemy. Ajara, without old age or disease. Amaram, immortal. Atmanam, himself. Apradidvandvam, without any rival or opponent. Ekarajam, the one king of the universe. Vyaditsata, desired to become. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Narada Muni said to Maharaj Yudhishthir, the demoniac king Hiraṇyakaśipu wanted to be unconquerable and free from old age and dwindling of the body. He wanted to gain all the yogic perfections like Anima and Laghima, to be deathless, and to be the only king of the entire universe, including Brahmaloka. Purport. Such are the goals of the austerities performed by demons. Hiraṇyakaśipu wanted to receive a benediction from Lord Brahmā, so that in the future he would be able to conquer Lord Brahmā's abode. Similarly, another demon received a benediction from Lord Shiva, but later wanted to kill Lord Shiva through that same benediction. Thus, self-interested persons by demoniac austerity want to kill even their benedictors, whereas the Vaishnava wants to remain an ever-existing servant of the Lord and never to occupy the post of the Lord. Through Sayuja Mukti, which is generally demanded by asuras, one merges into the existence of the Lord. But although one sometimes thus achieves the goal of the theory of monism, one falls down again to struggle in material existence. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupagadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I see at least why Krishna chooses to wear a garland eternally, because it's very nice, it's very soft and fragrant, and yeah. So yes, so here we're now beginning the narration about Hiraṇyakashipu's plan to become immortal, which is a plan that most people have, I think, in this world. Most people, although they don't expressly say that they are immortal, they won't expressly say, I mean, they pay some lip service to the fact that they're going to die, but really actually everybody's kind of planning on being immortal, in the sense that they live their lives in such a way that they're acquiring all these things and engaging in all these different activities as if they're going to be able to enjoy them forever. But as we hear in Shastra and as we hear from the Acharyas, this is quite foolish. And this whole narration now we're hearing in the 3rd chapter of the 7th canto is basically to demonstrate that. Hiraṇyakashipu is kind of the archetypal demon, or the archetypal materialist, who is really trying to make a niche for himself, or trying to make a, well, I guess beyond trying to make a niche for himself in this world, he's trying to rule the entire world. He wants the whole world to be his niche, which is kind of a, yeah, again, what everybody else is kind of doing in some way or another. Everybody wants to be immortal, and so people are dedicating so much. Nowadays, within science, there's whole studies about immortality, reversing aging. Even on a superficial level, they have anti-aging creams where they nourishes the skin in such a way that you don't get wrinkles. And my mother was very good about this. My mother actually was throughout her, she was a physical therapist, but then after she was a physical therapist, she got into kind of like skincare. And so actually she's around 60 years old, but she looks very good for her age, actually. She's very, not wrinkled, not so many wrinkles, and she gets compliments a lot. She looks very good for her age because she uses all these anti-aging creams, and so many people, men, women, now men are also all kinds of skin stuff. And it used to be kind of frowned upon, like, oh, what are you, a girl or something like that. But now all the men are into it. It's like a whole thing, skin. But even on a more deeper biological level, people are studying immortality. They claim to have, you could say, reduced or focused immortality on one particular enzyme on human cells called telomeres, which cap the end of certain cells. And so when cells divide, those telomeres shorten, or they only transfer a certain amount of telomeres. So there's a certain substance called telomerase, or however you pronounce it, which is in some particular organisms which are considered to be biologically immortal. So these telomeres, as they shorten, that's what aging is, apparently. So there are certain organisms that have this enzyme called telomerase, which basically makes it so that when a cell divides, these telomeres don't shorten, or the amount of telomeres within the cell don't shorten. Therefore, aging doesn't go on, or at least it slows down significantly. So there's certain kinds of yeast and certain kinds of bacteria. Some turtles have this. That's why turtles live for a very long time. They can live up to 200 or 300 years in the wild, some of them. There's a certain kind of shark called the Greenland shark that can live for up to 500 years in the wild. Yeah. Yeah, you can search it up. It's a kind of deep sea shark. Sea urchins also can live 200, 500 years in the wild. Anyway, there's so many. There's a certain kind of clam also that can live for a very long time in the wild. So they're studying these different living entities, trying to crack the code, trying to find immortality. Will they find it? No. They won't find it. Because even those living entities which are said to be biologically immortal in the sense that they age very slowly. Biologically immortal means nobody's been around long enough to see one, take birth and then die. It's based on our own limited perception. Nobody's ever been around for the entire lifetime of a Greenland shark. Even if they were, who's really studying that? So Srila Prabhupada compared, in some places, he compared these different yogic siddhis to different achievements, scientific achievements that humans have accomplished. Flying also, Prabhupada compared to a certain kind of, means flying in airplanes and stuff like that. Srila Prabhupada compared that to the yogi's ability to fly, to levitate. But immortality also could be possible. Could be possible that by some scientific, I don't know, what would you say, scientific experimentation or scientific achievement, that one could slow down aging to such an extent that it appears one's immortal. Or they might even be able to stop aging, the aging process in general. Maybe, who knows. But that's only one way to die. Age is only a particular way to die. There's so many ways to die. Even these living entities which they say are biologically immortal, even they die. Turtles have predators. And what to speak of bacteria? Bacteria dies, every day so many bacteria are coming into being and dying. So if it's not one thing, it's another thing. The principle is that the body always must change. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grahnati naroparani tata sharirani what is it? Vihaya jirnanyani samyati navani dehi. Krishna compares the body to like a set of clothes. Just as one removes an old outfit and puts on a new one, similarly the living entity is always changing bodies. Whether it's a bacteria's body or a turtle's body or a human's body, whatever it is, the body is always changing. That's a principle that must go on. Why? Because karma's there. According to their karma, living entities have to change bodies, even Lord Brahmā. Even Lord Brahmā, when Hiraṇyakaśipu asked Lord Brahmā, he said, "Can you make me immortal?" He said, "Hey man, I don't even have that. I can't make you immortal. I'm not even immortal." Even Lord Brahmā, after 311 trillion, 40 billion years, has to change his body. He dies. But Lord Brahmā makes the point to Hiraṇyakaśipu that only Lord Vishnu can give you immortality. I don't have immortality. Only Vishnu, only Krishna has immortality. In the Varaha Purana it's stated, Natasya prakrita murtir mam samedosti sambhava. Mam samedosti sambhava. Nayogitvad ishvaratvad satya rupo chito vibhu. Krishna, Natasya prakrita murtir mam samedosti sambhava. Krishna's body isn't prakriti, it's not material. It's not made of mamsa and meda, it's not made of flesh and blood. And Krishna's not a yogi, he's not a demigod. Therefore, this last line of the verse, Satya Rupo. Krishna's Rupa, his form is Satya. It's true, it's eternal. It's not like these flickering, sometimes this, sometimes that, bodies that we have, or that other living entities have. Although Krishna sometimes makes it look like that. Krishna sometimes, for instance, at the end of the 10th canto, we hear about how Krishna dies. We hear about how Krishna, and specifically, one of the words that's used is that Krishna, he gives up his anga, his angas. Anga means limbs. Oh, sorry, 11th canto. 11th canto. Yeah, it's described that Krishna, he gives up his angas, he gives up his limbs. So there's many people who take this literally. There's many people who take this that actually, yeah, Krishna's just like me and you and everybody else, and he's got to give up his body. There's a popular theory in relation to Ramayana that, well, Krishna, his death was somewhat, what would you say? It's somewhat mysterious. Krishna's there in the forest and he gets shot in the heel by a stray arrow of a hunter. For a kshatriya, that's like a really inglorious death. Kshatriyas, they want to die in battle. Actually, the way a kshatriya dies is very important. Because if a kshatriya is killed by a low-class person, then that's extremely shameful for his whole dynasty. It's really shameful. So especially for a kshatriya to be killed by some accident, and especially to be killed by a hunter, the most like really low-class person in society, is really inglorious death. So why would Krishna do that? Why would Krishna, who has control over everything, make his death look like that, look so inglorious? Well, some people theorize is that he wasn't in control of it. In Ramayana, when Lord Ram was killing Vali was running away, Ram shot him from behind. And so some people theorize that Krishna died such an inglorious death. Why? Because it was a karmic reaction for killing Vali from behind. He made Vali die an inglorious death in battle. And so therefore he got the karmic reaction of himself dying an inglorious death. But it's nonsense. It's just nonsense. For anybody who has any kind of intelligence in relation to this. It's just really complete nonsense that Krishna has some karmic reaction. So therefore Madhvacharya says, Agranad Visarjat Cheti Krishna Ramadikam Tanum Patyate Bhagavanisho Mudha Buddhi Vipekshaya. This is in his Bhagavatam commentary. He says, Agranad Visarjat Cheti Krishna Ramadikam Tanum. Wherever it says or wherever it appears that Krishna is giving up his body, or where Krishna is dying, Krishna does that. Why? Mudha buddhi vyapekshaya, just to satisfy the mentality of fools. And there's another similar verse like this in Madhvacharya's Bhagavatam commentary. He says, Yada tyagadir ucheta. Maybe I won't remember it. Yada tyagadir ucheta. Maybe I won't remember it. Anyway, what he says Yadat Tyagadirucheta, and I forgot the next line, but then he says Kadachit, and then he says Tadagyeya Nahi Svangam. This is the significant part, really. Tadagyeya Nahi Svangam Kadachit Vishnu Rutsrijet. It says wherever, specifically in relation to this word anga that's mentioned in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, wherever it says that Krishna gives up his angas, that word anga actually refers to the earth. Oh yeah, there it is. Prithivyadhyanga kalpana. Tadagyeya nahi swangam kadachit Vishnu rutsurjet. Wherever it talks about Krishna giving up his angas, actually it means him giving up Prithivi, it means him giving up the earth. Tadagyeya nahi swangam, because Vishnu, he never gives up his angas. Why? Because his body is satya, his body is eternal. He never gives up his body. Madhvacharya makes this point. But fools think that. Mudha buddhi. If one has the intelligence of a fool, then he thinks that. He thinks that that I'm just like Krishna. Krishna's got a material body, and Krishna's body is eventually going to die. He's going to have to give it up. So even people who are extremely learned, actually, who are scholars, there's so many Vedic scholars, these Mayavadis, actually, they're extremely scholarly. They know so many shlokas, they've studied so many, like these, previously you had, now it's just a name really, but you had these Trivedis. They fully studied 3 Vedas. Chanting properly, everything. Really, that was traditional. But what was their understanding? The understanding was practically nothing. They didn't have any understanding that Vishnu was God, or that Krishna was God, and that the goal of our life is to go back home, back to Godhead. They just chant, and then they have this idea, this foolish idea, that the Lord's body is material, and that really the essence of it all is just Brahman. Like Prabhupada often quotes, Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya. Brahman is truth, and the world is falsity. But even their own shastras, Krishna's very funny actually. Krishna likes to play jokes on these people. That's why he does this whole, death, moshale Lila. It's just to mess with people, really. So he even puts in those shastras, in their own shastras, Dvevava Brahmano Rupe, Murtam Cheva Murtam Cha. This is in the Hiraṇyakaśipu Upanishad. Dvevava Brahmano Rupe. Brahman has 2 forms. Murtam Cheva Chev Amurtam Cha. Murtam means form and no form. That's clear. And also in the Rig Veda, Om tad Vishno paramam padagam sada pashyanti suraya diviva chakshuratatam tad vipraso vipanyavo jagravagam sasamindade Vishnu yat paramam padam. He's describing how the suras, the saintly people, they're always seeing Lord Vishnu's abode, they're always seeing his lotus feet. And they can reveal that abode. They can reveal those lotus feet to others on account of their spiritual elevation. But people, they may be so scholarly, they may be so learned, they may know all these different things, they may be extremely dharmic, actually. Dehavag thira, dharmagnya shraddhayanvata. They may have extreme faith in the Vedas, and they may be dharmagnya, they may know all these different dharmic rules, they may be extremely cultured people. But if ultimately they've just taken shelter of their own false ego and their own lust and their own envy, then they can't know anything. Ahankaram balam darpam, kamam krodam cha samshritaha, mamatma paradeheshu pradushanto bhyasuyakaha. Those who've taken shelter of their own ahankar, those who've taken shelter of their own vanity and their own lust and greed, all these different things. Mamatma paradeheshu pradushanto bhyasuyakaha. Then to me, Krishna speaking, to me who's the Paramatma in all bodies, pradushanto bhyasuyaka, they just blaspheme. That's it. That's all they do. Just blaspheme other people, and they blaspheme, Prabhupada translates, as the real religion. People who are absorbed in falsity, what do? They blaspheme truth. They just, people, they talk so much, especially these smartas, they talk so much. But what's it backed up by? Practically nothing. You have these smartas, like, for instance, this Puri Shankaracharya. You're probably familiar with him. What's his name? I forget his. Long time, yeah. But I forgot his actual. Anyway, but he's the Shankaracharya in Puri. This guy just talks so much. He says so much about Prabhupada, he says so much about ISKCON, it's not that ISKCON is completely spotless and we can't say anything about ISKCON. But, his criticisms of Prabhupada are not of Prabhupada really. In a lot of ways he actually glorifies Prabhupada. No, sorry. I'm thinking of somebody else. But no, he criticizes Prabhupada. And here's one of his major criticisms of Prabhupada. He says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an Ekadandi sannyasi. Means he was a follower of Shankar, he was a Mayavadi. This is reflected in his Shikshashtakam. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Darpana means mirror. He says, who do you see when you look in a mirror? You see yourself. So he's saying that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that when you chant the holy name, you're supposed to start seeing yourself in your heart, which is Krishna. You are Krishna. And so he even goes so far as to say that he says Srila Prabhupada is making Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cry because he's interpreting it in a dualistic way. Just complete nonsense. Like, these people are so stupid, They have stool for brains, and they're quoting all these different shastras, all these different things, but their arguments could basically be defeated by our new bhaktas. And for all their this and that, they're just, getting worshipped so much, and these people are completely deluded, and they think that this is like, Guruji. But it's all nonsense. And because of their demoniac mentality, because of this pradushanto bhyasuyaka, what happens? They just go to hell. Prabhupada's talking about, these asuras, they're demanding sayuja mukti. Yeah, they demand sayuja mukti, but what do they get? They go to hell. Why? Because vadanti tat tattvadas tattvavidas tattvam yajganam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. This they deny. Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. They deny this. There's no Bhagavan, there's no Paramatma, just Brahman. There's no Prakriti, there's none of this, Gita Sugita Kartavya Kimanyai Shastra Vistray. Shankaracharya says. He says that the Bhagavad Gita is the most beautiful song, and he says, what other Shastra do you need? But what do? They interpret the Bhagavad Gita in so many different ways. Like this. Yeah. They acknowledge that there is some but not that it's real. It's ultimately unreal. It's just some manifestation of Brahman. So, what do they get? Do they get their desired success? Do they merge into the Brahman effulgence? No, they just go to hell. The followers of Shankaracharya go to hell. Prabhupada makes a distinction between, I guess we could call successful impersonalists and unsuccessful impersonalists. The successful impersonalists are those who say, okay, Bhagavan's real, Paramatma is real, Brahman is real, but I want Brahman. Fine. You're a soft core enemy of Krishna. But the hardcore enemies of Krishna, who say that Bhagavan's not real, Paramatma's not real, only Brahman is real, and everything else is false, they don't get anything, they go to hell. Why? Because they're offensive. Pradushanto Bhyasuyika. They're just offensive. And so this is demoniac life. So much work, so much austerity, so much learning. For what? At best, you get the perfection of becoming like a bacteria. Laghima. You become the smallest of the small, and you become immortal. Just like these, bacteria that they've discovered. You know, you can live for a very, very long time, and you can be smallest of the small. That's how Krishna fulfills the desires of the demons. Krishna doesn't give them Of course, Hiraṇyakaśipu got something, but Krishna only did that to instruct everybody, to have this example be there, and really to glorify Prahlad. Hiraṇyakāśipu is just scratch. What Krishna really wants to do is glorify Prahlad, and that's what he's doing in this 7th canto. And that's why he gave Hiraṇyakāśipu whatever benedictions he got. So real immortality, real perfection, real siddhi is in Krishna consciousness. Vedaham etam purusham mahantam aditya varnam tamasaf parastat tamevam vidvan amrita iya bhavati nanyaf panta vidyate yanaya. If you want to become immortal, if you want to become amrita, then what do you have to do? You have to become vidvan. You have to understand Krishna and worship Krishna. So how do we become vidvan? What's the qualification for somebody to become vidvan? It's not by your own doing. It's not like some yogic process or some mechanical process where you can just do this and do that, like Hiraṇyakāśipu, It's not that you can just stand up on your toes and do this and look up for thousands and thousands of years and have ants eat your whole body, and then Krishna will be like, okay, Haribol, come back to Godhead. It's not like that. We have to become ananya bhaktas. We have to become devotees of Krishna with no other desires. No karma mishra, no jnana mishra, no yoga mishra, nothing. Fully sold out servants of Krishna with no other desire for anything. Krishna says, Ananya cheta satatam yo mam smariti nityashaha tasyaham sulabhav partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. Real yoga is this, nitya yuktasya yoginaha. This is real yoga. Ananya cheta satatam yo mam smariti nityashaha. To have nothing else in one's consciousness besides always remembering Krishna. And then Krishna says, Tasyaham sulabhav partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. And then he says, I'm very easy to attain. Tasyaham sulabhav partha. Baladev Vidyabhushana, in his commentary to this verse, goes in he explains very, technically and very nicely, this word tasya that Krishna uses in this verse. It's in a particular case in Sanskrit, which indicates that it's not that we are doing it. It's not that we do our sadhana and then on the strength of our sadhana we go back to Godhead. Actually, what this verse is saying and how Baladev Vidyabhushana puts it is that seeing us, try to worship Him, try to attain Him. Baladev Vidyabhushana says Krishna can't tolerate separation from us. And therefore He perfects our sadhana. Whatever advancement a devotee makes in Krishna consciousness is only by Krishna's mercy. Krishna says in the 10th chapter, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Krishna says, I give the intelligence. Tesham satat yuktanam. As you endeavor, for one who constantly endeavors, I give the perfection of his sadhana. Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo namedeya nabahudashrutena. The absolute truth can't be attained by one's own intelligence, can't be obtained by even reading all these different shastras. Namedeya nabahudashrutena. Yame vaishya vrinute tena labhyas tasyesha atma vivrinute tanum swam. Krishna can only be achieved by one whom he chooses. Krishna will choose us if we try. If we try very hard, all we have to do is remember him, engage in our activities with him in mind, do some basic, sadhana that's recommended by the Acharya. And then Krishna, being unable to tolerate separation from us, Tesham evanukam bhartam. Krishna, Dravida Prabhu likes to bring this up, that this word anukampa in this verse. Anukampa literally means Krishna seeing us and he's trembling. He's seeing us and he just can't tolerate it. He wants us back so bad. So Krishna will give us the perfection of our sadhana if we try. And in this way, bhakti on both sides, on our side and on Krishna's side, is completely selfless. If we become selfless, sold out servants of Krishna, Krishna becomes selfless and sold out to us. He becomes controlled by our love. Nrsimhadev was bound by Prahlad Maharaj's love. Prahlad Maharaj went, when he was, after the bifurcation happened, Nrsimhadev is sitting there with Hiraṇyakashipu's intestines around his neck, and he's sitting there just kind of like huffing. He's so angry. He's the personification of all anger, and then some. And all the demigods are there, and they're, they have no idea what to do. They ask Lakshmi. Lakshmi's like, I've never seen him like this before. She's like, I can't even recognize him. And so then they get Prahlad, they say, Prahlad, he came for you, so you go talk to him. And Prahlad Maharaj approaches Nrsimhadev and he says, hey, you don't have to be angry anymore. And immediately, the Supreme Personality of God is being controlled by a little boy. The Supreme Lord, who's the controller of Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Mata Sarvam Pravartate. Everything's coming from him. Everything's being controlled by him. And he's being controlled by a little boy. Something really amazing. In the 10th canto, there's a verse like this in relation to the Damodar Lila. That the most kind of a wonderful aspect of this Damodar Lila is that the Supreme Lord is being controlled by the love of his pure devotee. Damodar, he was like we read, in this Damodar Ashtakam, he's bound not with ropes, but with his mother's pure love. That's what binds Krishna. Krishna becomes our sold-out servant, despite what we may have done in the past. And we are his sold-out servant, despite whatever he may do to us. There's a verse in the Ujjvala Nilamani, Sarvata dvamsarahitam satyapi dvamsakarane yad bhava bandhanam saprema parikirtataha. This is the definition of prema. Sarvata dvamsarahitam satyapi dvamsakarane. That relationship which stays together despite so many reasons for it being separated. Yad bhava bandhanam saprema parikirtataha. That bhav, or that thing which is binding them, that's prema. Of course, this doesn't apply in the material realm. It's not that, somebody's in a toxic relationship with somebody, they're scared to leave or something like that. That's not prema, But Prahlad Maharaj had no reason to continue to love God. God let him suffer. Krishna, Nrsimhadev, Krishna, whoever, whatever name you want to call him, let Prahlad Maharaj suffer. Or at least it would externally appear that way. Prahlad Maharaj, of course, wasn't suffering. But he let Hiraṇyakashipu throw him off a cliff. He let Hiraṇyakaśipu boil him in oil. He let Hiraṇyakaśipu, try to have his men stab him with weapons, tried to poison him, feed him to snakes, trample him. I mean, you name it, the list goes on. Similarly, the gopis. Krishna put the gopis in so much anxiety. Krishna put not just the gopis, all the Vrajvasis. Krishna put all the Vrajvasis in so much anxiety so many times. And what do? They just continued to love him. The gopis specifically, because Krishna specifically kind of treats the gopis in certain ways that'd be like, oh man, He teases them, he abandons them. But still the gopis are his sold out servants through and through. They have nothing else besides Krishna. That's prema. With the demons and those who are selfish and those who are trying to, get some position like Hiraṇyakaśipu, it's the complete opposite. Vrikasura, Prabhupada's mentioning this purport, doesn't name him by name, but he's talking about Vrikasura. Vrikasura was, even in one sense, you could say selflessly in one sense, because, he was willing to kill himself. Selflessly trying to serve Lord Shiva, or offer oblations to Lord Shiva for the sake of getting some kind of benediction. The benediction he wanted was that anytime I touch somebody's head, it explodes. I can just kill anybody. And so he was about to cut off his own head and offer it into the fire. He was cutting off, his flesh. He was about to cut off his head into the fire. And Shiva appears to him and says, okay, whoa. What do you want? And he asks him for this benediction. He goes, okay, fine, just take it. And he goes, so does it work? And Shiva's like, and he said, let me test it. And he let me test it on you, And so she was running all over the universe. He's trying to, and then eventually Lord Vishnu has him touch his own head. So this is the demoniac mentality, willing to do anything for sense gratification. People just, the way people treat other people, just step on anybody's head, that's the mentality. Push anybody down as long as I get up. That's materialistic mentality. But in Krishna consciousness, there's nothing like that. Why? Because there's so much more happiness in selfless love than there is in just selfish kind of ahangropasana, self-worship. There's so much more happiness. Why? Because that's our nature. Our nature is to be selfless servants. Our nature is that we're ananya bhaktas. Our nature is that there is nothing, that we have ananya chitta. What's this verse? Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeho kurunandana. That's our nature. Krishna's saying, we have all these rules and regulations. You have to do this and do that. Always remember Krishna. But these are just things that we would do anyway if we were pure. All these different rules and regulations, avoiding sinful activity, engaging in different aspects of sadhana. All these things are just things we would do if we were pure, but they're regulated so that we can get to that platform, so that we can get back to the platform of being ananya. No desire for karma, jnana, yoga, nothing. Just serving Krishna. So we'll hear about the consequences in this chapter of doing the opposite, of trying to worship ourselves, trying to become immortal, taking Lord Brahma's position. We'll hear about, not just in this, well, I guess we won't hear about the results in this chapter. We'll hear in some later chapters. Next chapter is Hiraṇyakaśipu terrorizes the universe. Chapter after that, we'll hear about Prahlad Maharaj, so it'll be some delayed gratification. It'll be in, anyway, yeah. So if there's any questions, comments. Going once. Anything online?
Thank you for the class. Hiraṇyakaśipu made so many austerities, and after that about immortal, be immortal, but after 5 years he was died. He can how to say, be пытался наслаждаться. He tried to enjoy only 5 years after his so many austerities. This is nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah, so much work for such little benefit. Such a little, the perfection of being like, yeah, like I said, the perfection of being like a bacteria, very small and immortal. Well, there are certain bacteria that they've discovered that are practically immortal, that don't have like aging properties. Yeah, there's certain bacteria, certain kinds of yeast that are like that. There's one also, nematodes. They found these ancient prehistoric worms frozen in ice, and then they melted the ice. It's like 40,000-year-old ice or something like that, and the worms started moving and eating. So. Yes, Mr. Chad.
Thank you for your great lecture. Have you heard of the immortal jellyfish?
I have heard of the immortal.
Yeah, it's unique as far as it goes back to its primordial condition and then grows again. So it's kind of like winding things back up and then
Maybe I didn't hear about this. What exactly is it?
It's called an immortal jellyfish.
Huh. I've heard that some jellyfish are immortal, but I haven't heard this thing where it goes back to its primordial state. What exactly is that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know like all the intricacies.
Okay.
But like winds back up.
Wow.
Kind of like the universe.
Wow.
And then is released again. Sort of thing.
That's cool. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be an immortal jellyfish. Yeah. Yeah, Greenland shark, 500 years. It's pretty amazing. Mahaprabhu's time. If there was any Greenland sharks born in Mahaprabhu's time, some shark. Yeah, some sharks from Gaur Lila are still around. Anything more online?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Amogha Prabhu, I have a question.
Okay.
May I?
You may.
Yes, thank you very much. You're most kind. Dandavat pranams. Prabhu, in the purport to the text you chose for today, I see that self-interested persons, they are so self-interested that they even go for killing even their benedictors.
Yes.
And my understanding is that this is the same as to say that they have no gratitude in them.
Yes.
They're not grateful.
Correct.
So based on this, my question is, why is it that devotees of the Lord are grateful people? How do you explain the gratitude in them?
Well, I mean, gratitude is just a basic, it's an acknowledgement that you're not the controller of everything. It's an acknowledgement that you owe something to somebody else because somebody did something for you that you couldn't do yourself. So demons tend to be extremely self-absorbed and think that, Ishvaro hamaham bogi, that I'm the controller and the enjoyer, and that everything is done by me, for me. But devotees who are just, devotees aren't the only people who are grateful. They're, materialists. Anybody who has any kind of basic culture is grateful for something, at least, hopefully. So devotees, just because they're humble and they understand that we're not the controllers of everything, everything isn't meant for our enjoyment, they can see how Krishna helps them. They can see how Krishna is arranging for their advancement, how Krishna is arranging for their maintenance. Then, they become very grateful and they feel indebted to Krishna, and they feel and that indebtedness and that gratitude binds them further to Krishna. So that's something. Is there? I think Dravida Prabhu has something.
I was thinking of this phrase, malignant narcissism. I don't know, those who have been aware of the political situation over the last 10 years. And it means that one is more or less like a Hangvopasana. You're completely absorbed in the self, and any relationship with others is in the category of exploitation. So, in other words, as long as someone can do something for you, then you favor them, and as soon as there's some the person criticizes you or something, out, finished. It's just the opposite of bhakti. Bhakti is we're not so completely unself-centered and centered on Krishna. Just like Radharani is the ideal. What is that? Ashlishiva padatang vidastamama darshanamama tangarava yatata tada mat prananatas tusaheva napara. No matter what he does, this is you brought up. It brought it up in the definition of prema. No matter what Krishna does, he cheats me, he abandons me, he crushes me. He'll always remain my darling. I'll always be dedicated. That's actually the perfection of bhakti. Whereas the malignant narcissist, embodied by Hiraṇyakaśipu and some more modern examples we have, it fits right in with his previous chapter, Sri Hiraṇyakaśipu Vacha, the Hiraṇyakaśipu Gita, all for the sake of just pacifying his relatives, But then did he take it to heart and not lament for? No, his whole thing was revenge against Vishnu for what he did to his brother, and in this way I'll become most powerful. And so every relationship becomes one of exploitation rather than service. Now the question is that how can the devotee have so much gratitude, but the demons personified by Hiraṇyakashipu have none. They have no gratitude. And it's because of their mentality. They're worshiping themselves, and they're thinking that I want to be God. And if not, then I'll be as close to God as possible and use everyone.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, but now the burning question, just because you said what you just said, how can Srimati Radharani stay a worshipper of Lord Krishna in the way she does, when the one who is exploiting her is Lord Krishna, if I may say it in this way, because she's saying, oh, I don't mind if you mistreat me, if you're not present, still I will be your lover forever. So when she says like that, we conclude that the one who is exploiting someone is Krishna, exploiting Srimati Radharani. So why should Srimati Radharani go on being a worshipper of someone who is exploiting her?
It's not just someone who's exploiting her, it's Krishna. The point is that, did you ever hear this phrase, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Ar Sabhabhritya? Is that in
No.
this? It means there is one Ishvara and all others are servants. That means that even Narayan, Advaitacharya, who's Mahavishnu, right? That they take the greatest pleasure in serving Krishna, in this case in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the idea is that we're also the devotees experiencing the greatest pleasure by struggling and sacrificing to serve Krishna. Even we have it, with the book distributors who undergo austerity, go out and trouble and anxiety and this and that, because Krishna wants it, and then and when they're able to distribute a book, the people feel that they plug into that, and they see that this person really has my interest at heart. He's out here, not trying to make any money out of this. He's giving me something of value. So that's the nature of bhakti, is that you discover by the process of devotion, by purifying the heart, that the greatest pleasure is to be had by sacrificing everything for the pleasure of Krishna at every moment, and being in tune to his desires. And so that's why Radharani, she personifies that. After all, she's Krishna's Ladini Shakti. He expands her so to enjoy in this loving relationship. And she and all the other gopis are like that. You read chapter 4 of Adi Lila, and it's defined like that. And so that's what you discover, you're not getting pleasure out of accumulating wealth or power or anything. You're getting pleasure out of doing some humble service to Krishna and being, and him reciprocating. He reciprocates through the heart by giving you ananda. What more is there to need? So that's the difference. It's the whole self-centered mentality. It's the false ego. We're trying to be something we're not, and therefore it's frustrating life after life, and you can never be happy. When we try to be what we really are, then we can become peaceful and happy. Maybe take a couple of births, but go back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Drabida Prabhu, thank you very much. And thank you, Amogha Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai.